Shalom everyone, and today we're in Parashat Shoftim. Shoftim means in Hebrew, judges. Okay? And it starts with, basically most of the parasha is dealing with the conditions we need in order to have a successful society. And this is not so simple, we know. That very important part of our inner happiness and is the trust we have in our society, in the establishment. And the question is, the golden treasure, the multi-million dollars question. And the issue that is, how do we create the successful society? Because a successful society will give us what we need, just a background to create a happy life. And if your society does not support that, as we're going to see it over here, we have a big problem. And the world is right now dealing with that much more than we will admit. Dealing with that because we got used to the idea that everybody is busy making his life better, and society is okay, so don't bother with that too much. And meanwhile, we realize we're waking up and society is not okay. We see the collapse of countries around the world, the collapse of the trust people have to the establishment, and that was a gradual one, but the last few years, and we see it's coming and rolling ahead of us, it is devastating. And the question is why? What is the reason for the failure, and what are the tools for success? Which means, what is that we really need to have in mind when we are building a successful society? Okay? And basically, and it starts with the judges and policemen. That's the beginning of the parasha. We are in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 16, verse 18. Shoftim veshotrim titen lecha. We need, remember, these are basically the laws that Moses presents to the Israelite nation before he leaves. This is his legacy. He's making a summary of all four books of the 5 books of Moses. The first 4 are basically the law given by God. The 5th one, it's the 5 books of Moses, not the 4 books of Moses. The 5th one, it's the words of Moses during the last 5 weeks before he leaves and goes on the mountain, disappears forever. And so he gives us the legacy, the summary, the repetition of all the laws of the Torah. So that's basically where we are at. And therefore, we are coming to this parasha that is very much into how do you structure a society. This parasha is always the beginning of the month of Elul, Virgo, in the Hebrew calendar. And that means also we are just a month before Rosh Hashanah, the new year. So we have here kind of 2 stories happening on different layers. One story is, how do you structure a just society, which is a condition for economical freedom and prosperity. Why? Because if you know you're going to be robbed by the government, your government, everyone, wherever there is, if you know that the government is going to take more taxes than they give you services, why should you bother to create prosperity or report it to the authorities? And the result is that we see it around the world, that wherever the authorities are taxing everything, with the really excitement, people produce less. While when people feel that the government is fairly taxing them and giving them the support to make money, people have a better incentive to make money and to pay taxes. And this is known, and this is more like a small government a policy of the right wing in what is called in today's politics. On the other hand, we see that if you go by the left wing, saying the government to the extreme, the government will do everything for you, but in return will have a big government because you cannot do it by yourself. We will run the whole economy, education, whatever you need, we will run it for you because we don't trust you to make the right decisions. So that creates a huge government, huge bureaucracy, and the history of the last century and more proved it not so sufficient. Okay, and there were some that in the middle, but it's all about one thing, and we will see it in this parasha. That's one layer of this parasha. But there's another layer. The layer that a month ahead of us, we have the new Hebrew New Year, which means Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year, which means the control of the year, and or even to go deeper, within a month, exactly a month from today, when the new moon of the month of Libra is going to happen, we're celebrating the beginning of creation and the beginning of humanity, and that means that everything is starting all over again. Everything goes back to the seed level, and that means we have an ability to rejuvenate our souls, to rejuvenate our livelihoods, to rejuvenate the way we see the world, to rejuvenate our destiny, and that means we have an ability to change totally the tracks and the mission of our lives, and that means a lot, as we're going to learn. Which means the inner layer is, what are the tools we need to take in order to prepare ourselves in the month that is left? We have exactly a month. So when we coming to the new moon of Libra, to Rosh Hashanah, we will be ready to receive a better year. And as the Jewish saying states, as in the prayer books, the moment we start the new year, we pronounce in the synagogues and at home next to the table, Tichle Shana Vekilolotea, a year with its curses will come to its end, and Vetachel Shana Uvichotea, and a year with its blessings will start right now. How do we leave the curses behind, and how do we welcome the blessings so we can celebrate them for the coming year? And it's all depending in our consciousness, and especially the work we have in the coming month. We can really change our tikkun, which means our status of our souls, and that means including spiritually, livelihood, financially, health-wise, and the whole family relations. All of that can be drastically transformed in the coming new year. How do we do that? So let us go in let's follow the two layers. The first layer, as we said, judges and policemen, you should give in all of your gates, and they should judge the nation justice. And the question is, it's a very old question, and it arises again and again. The more transparency we have around, what's going on in the government's systems all over the world. We talk about all the three authorities of government. Either it's the police, the judicial system, or the government, or the parliaments. Now, how do we get a functional government? And it says over here something very important, because we go to the Zohar, and the Zohar is giving us an example of what does it mean, Shoftim. Now, usually in most books, you will see that the translation of the word Shoftim is judges. Okay? That's the normal translation. However, you know, in different languages, you have different word for the same concept, which means there's a different understanding of the concept. What's the meaning? What's the job of the judge? Okay, now in English, judge is coming from judgment, and in Hebrew, the word judgment, the way we take the word judgment is din, dayan, which means somebody who takes the person who transgressed against society, against his neighbor, and show him the results, which means judgment means punishment. Okay? Judgment means punishment. When we punish the people that sin, we will have a better, just society. This is one way to see it. However, the Zohar does not agree with that idea. And therefore, in Hebrew, when you call the word for a judge is not dayan, it is in some cases. In modern Hebrew, dayan is somebody that, but it's not the correct thing the way the Zohar is. Just because of the structure of modern Israel, you call dayan a judge in rabbinical court, because in Israel you have two systems of court. One is the civil system of court, and the other one is the religious. So the religious system of court in Israel is based of Jewish religious system, the Sharia Islamic system, and the Christian. Each one of them, they have the authority for in only among their own community, and only in religious and family issues. Okay, the rest, almost everything is going to the civil court system. So you call dayanim to the people that belong to the religious system, although this is not the right, this is just in modern Hebrew because of the structure of the judicial system in Israel, modern Israel. Okay, however, the word is shofet, and shofet, says the Zohar, means something totally different than a judge. Why? And the Zohar is giving us a verse. This verse can be found in the book of Psalms, chapter 75, and it says, Ki Elohim shofet. Okay? I don't want to go into the details of it, but the Zohar brings us through games of letters, words, and a deeper explanation, saying like this: Sod hamishpat hu b'shlosha kavim. The secret of mishpat. Mishpat means court system, okay? Which means somebody made an offense against his neighbor, against society, against the law, and he's being brought into the into court. That's called mishpat. What does it mean? What's the secret of mishpat? And the Zohar says the secret of mishpat is the three-column system, and we'll see that will apply to everything, including coming into Rosh Hashanah, because Rosh Hashanah in the Jewish tradition is also being explained as that every human being, not just Jews, every human being is going to heavenly court, and according to what's happening in heavenly court, the next year that we get is going to be is going to come out, okay, in heavenly court. Which means the question is, what is that issue of court? Why the Zohar says it is, the whole thing is around the three-column system. Okay? And the Zohar is giving another word, בסוד במותיו בהתלתה כחד אהבינה. Okay, and that is from the Hebrew court system and all the laws of the biblical laws of court system. And we're talking about, the Zohar is quoting, there's the issue of court of 3 judges. Okay, but the Zohar goes farther. The Zohar says there's a deeper layer inside. And that deeper layer says, הרומזים על 3 קווים המשמשים כאחד. It's all about 3-column system that when they work as one. אשר קו הימין נוטה לחסד, when the right column is חסד, loving kindness and grace, this is חסד, ושופט את העולם בחסד, and that one is diverting the whole world into loving kindness. Can we run a system only with loving kindness? We know that we cannot. Which means you open a business. And I explained it many times, if we do not understand the 3-column system. The 3-column system is, according to the Zohar, the major understanding of what is behind success and failure. And I'll explain it again a little bit, I hope make it short, so people already learned it, won't be bored, but we have to remind it to ourselves, especially before Rosh Hashanah. And I'll explain what the Zohar is saying. We are opening a business. Okay, let's say I decided to open a business of selling shoes. Okay, and there is a saying, you should always start with the right foot. So what if I got into the shop and by mistake I entered with the left foot? Is that a bad omen? Nonsense. The whole thing about starting with the right foot means that when you learn about the secret of successful business, first of all, you have to ask yourself, if you want to have a successful business, what is that you want, what kind of service you want to offer to the public, that he is different, better, broader, more efficient than others. Because if you don't have an edge, why do you think you're going to achieve a big market or achieve any greatness? So if you open a business about shoes, okay, you have to think, how do I find shoes that offer something that has an edge? What does it mean? You need that people will feel that you give them service they cannot get somewhere else. And that means right column. What does it mean, right column? Chesed, giving. If people feel that you give them something that has an edge that others do not have, they will become your clients and they will be loyal to you because they feel chesed. People need to feel chesed. People must feel chesed, because without chesed, olam chesed ibaneh, the world cannot exist without chesed. The same way you raise a child, the child must feel love, kindness, and real unconditional love from the parents. You want to create a union of marriage. Okay? So each part of the union must feel chesed, sharing and loving from the other one. Otherwise, this will be broken. Okay? But can you raise a child only with unconditional love? No, you can't. Can you have a real business when you just give the most amazing service, products, whatever, but you don't take anything? Of course you can. This business won't last too long. Can you have a marriage when you just give and you don't get anything? Of course not. So for that you need the left column, which is what is called judgment. The judgment is the left column, and the left column means making a boundary, which means the service that I'm giving is not unlimited. Why? Because if I just give everything possible, then I will somehow wilt and die. I won't be able to give anymore. So I must make some limitations of how much do I give, and I don't want to burn the other side, the receiver, with bread of shame, the shame of receiving something they did not earn. This is a very important concept. And also, I need, in order to sustain the right column, the giving, I need to receive. Which means if I don't have an income, I cannot continue giving the service. Okay? So that's when we're talking about the business. So then I need to charge for my services. I need to create an influx of money, okay, of income. And that's called the left column, that's called judgment. Okay, limitation of how much do I give and making sure that I also get. This is the left column. Now, the big miracle is, in a successful business, that you know how to balance between the right column and the left column, between the chesed and the gevuah, the judgment. And that's called the central column, in which whenever you give, people are happy to pay you. Okay? People feel that for them it's an honor to give you. So you give, and you basically, when you give, you receive. You receive a better name, you receive a better publicity, you receive customer loyalty. That's in business. When we're talking about raising a child, so you need unconditional love, which is chesed, but you also need, in order to have a healthy child, you need to set limits. And that's the left column, the judgment. Because you can't just give unconditionally whatever the child asks you for, and therefore you need to set the limits, although the child sometimes will tell you, Mom, Dad, I hate you. Why don't you let me do whatever I want? And we know that the secret for a healthy, happy child, there are limits. Which means you can't just get up in the morning whenever you feel like. There's a time you have to get up in the morning, there's a schedule, and you have to follow that strictly. And when kids are raised this way, they learn later on discipline, but they become a healthy grown-ups. And they also will be happy children. When you don't give limits to children and they just can eat whatever they want, whenever they want, they can go to sleep whenever, if you whoever try that, especially during the summer holiday, you get horrible reaction and very unsatisfied child, although it looks like when you give them everything they want, they should behave happy, and they are not. Okay? You need to set loving kindness and at the same time judgment, limitation, set up the boundaries. Now, how do you create the boundaries with love? How do you give with love, with boundaries, discipline, and respect and honor? Okay, the same thing with when we're talking about being a couple. In a way that it doesn't happen that one side gives so much till they feel drained, and the other one is just recipient, and they feel controlled, suffocated, and so on and so forth. Whoever knows what I'm talking about. How do you take the giving and the receiving and bringing them together to create a third force, which is called the central column? When you can balance these two into the third column, that's called Shofet. What is Shofet or Mishpath? Says the Zohar, why would somebody come in front of court? Because they transgressed. How do you look at that person? Says the Zohar, you look at that person as someone who lost his balance, and the job of the Shofet, not the judge. Judge is somebody who's there to scare and to punish. The job of the judge, or in Hebrew, the Shofet, that's not a judge, that the Shofet means the person who creates the three column system in a place that this system is lacking, which means what is the job of the judge in a court? Says the Zohar, his job according to the Torah, according to the Bible, is not to punish the transgressor, but his job is to heal the sinner and the sin and society, which means his job is to bring back the system into balance. But what if we punish the offender? What we punish the criminal? Okay, we don't have to punish them. The Torah does not see it as a punishment. The Torah sees it only as one way. And when you open Tractate Sanhedrin in the Talmud, Tractate Sanhedrin is the part of the Talmud. Whoever does not understand, we have the Torah, we have the Tanakh, which is all the holy 24 books of the Bible. And then you have the Mishnah and the Gemara, that they take the words and make them practical by setting up, expanding all the rules, how they are connected to everyday's life. Okay, and Tractate Sanhedrin is taking all the references in the Torah to creating court system, and it teaches us how to build a court system. And it says over there very clearly, if the shofet, which means the person that is called in English judge, if he does not feel love others as you love yourself towards the people that come in front of him, he cannot serve in his office. Why? If your motive is to take a revenge, if you feel hatred towards the offender, how can you heal the offender? Just a second. Why do I need to heal the offender? I'll give you some explanations. One, if the offender committed a crime, it means he is off balance. And if we are going to add judgment to judgment, so if you really understand what's going on in the modern system of courts and jail and police, I think that everybody realizes there's a big, huge problem. Why? Because how many people that are found guilty, sent to jail, come out corrected? You know, in America, they don't call it jails anymore. They call it correctional facility. Oh, how many people have really being corrected? Which means how many people did really go through a tikkun? In Hebrew, tikkun means correction. In jail, which means how many people, when they come out of jail, they are really kosher, which means they are ready to be part of a healthy society. The answer is not too many. Too many people go back to jail. Too many people go back to crime, which means the correctional facility, the percentage of success, how do you know it's a correction? That the person goes, that was basically the client of the correctional facility, he was corrected, which means he comes out of it as a healthy human being. Healthy human being means that he does not offend society or individuals. That is not working. Why? Because when a judge thinks that his job in the name of society is to take revenge against the offender, he is sinning, according to the Torah, against his job. And if you do not build a system of courts that is based on love, based on the idea that you have to help the person. I know that many judges I saw it in many places all around the world, have that state of mind. However, It's not always, and it's not enough. How do we know? We know it in a very simple way. The same thing with policemen. The moment you get a job as a judge or as a policeman, you're being given by society some extra powers in order to do your job. The problem is like this, that we know that power corrupts. Sometimes it will be an absolute power to decide who to live, who to die. That will be given to a policeman that can shoot somebody that they think he is an offender, that he is doing something that, I have the right to execute him right now, or as a judge that sends him to execution or to life sentence or any kind of sentencing. And we know that the problem is that too many times, people are being sent to jail and they didn't sin. How does the Torah deal with it? How does the Torah deal with things? The first thing is to realize that the law of judges and policemen is a mitzvah. What does it mean? Either in the Jewish system or in non-Jewish system, again, there are two sets of laws. One set of law is the basic. It's called the Noahide laws. Noah, after the flood, he received 7 laws. They're called the 7 Noahide laws. This is the covenant between God and humanity after the flood. Okay, one of the 7 laws is judges and policemen. Of course, this law is divided to many, many other sub-laws that we read right now in this parasha. So basically, it's not 7 laws relatively to the 613 of the Jewish system. They're basically over 60. Okay? But what does that mean, that being a judge or a policeman is a mitzvah? Just the fact that the judge and the policeman, they know that their job is given by the authority of the Creator, which means they have to answer to a higher authority. I'll explain. Once I read an article that was written by a judge that arrived finally to become, the peak will be sitting in the Supreme Court. And he said, you really, as a judge in county court or something like this, you think that you can have a lot of influence if you come with really high, positive, loving values. But then he says, but the moment you go to the Supreme Court, and in the Supreme Court, you have huge power, not just over little people, big systems, government offices. It's almost unlimited. Okay? The power that the judge in the Supreme Court can take for himself depends on different courts around the world, different times of these courts. But he says the moment you have so much power, the power starts to control you. The power starts to change you. Everybody knows what I'm just saying. The moment you give somebody almost uncontrolled power, they change. If you do not have real strong faith in the Creator, if you do not feel with all your might that you have to answer to a higher authority, we are going to have a problem. Because the left column over here of the judge will become stronger and stronger, because we will see stronger ego, we will see tainted judgment towards some ideas that people from the side will say, looking from the side, like, What is he doing? But the judge himself would not be able to see that he has a problem. And if you want really to understand that, you will see in verse 20, when it says tzedek, tzedek tirdof. Okay, the word justice appears over here twice to show how important it is. You should really have everything possible to have a court of justice that will really rule justice. What's the other half of the verse? וירש למען תחיה, so you can live. וירשת את הארץ אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך. And then you can inherit the land that God, the Lord your God, is giving you. Which means we know that having a system of judges and policemen that is faithful as public servants to the public and to God is a guarantee, a must. It's a basic must, so you'll have a life that is called life. Because if you don't trust the court system and the police system, and you're afraid they're going to rob you from your rights to live, to make money, to own property, just because they take bribery, or they ignore injustice, or just because they want to show you their might and that how powerful they are, and they don't care about you, that's not a life. That does not mean you inherit the land. It means that you become a serf over the land because you feel that you're serving somebody else, but you don't live in your own country because you're a slave, you're a serf. And that's very important because that's a condition for functional society. And if you want to understand that in a deeper level, then comes something that is very, very accurate for today. Let's go to chapter 17. And in chapter 17, he speaks about somebody who transgressed and followed paganism and idol worshipping. But it could be in any other case. Okay, verse 4, chapter 17. והוגד לך ושמעת ודרשת היטב, והנה אמת נכון הדבר, נעשתה הטובה הזאת בישראל. And you have a bunch of verbs over here. והוגד לך, and you're going to be told about it. That somebody else made a terrible sin. Okay, ושמעת, and you should listen or hear. ודרשת, you should make a research. You should investigate. ודרשת היטב, and you should investigate carefully. והנה אמת נכון הדבר, and it was true, the right thing. נעשתה, the bad thing has been done. Okay, why do you need so many verbs in one sentence? And again, Tractate Sanhedrin says, when you are going to sentence somebody in a ruling that is going to ruin their lives, you need to have 7 different investigations till you find him guilty. Okay? Which means we have a big problem. We know that today somebody has, court, before court, police, the system of judgment, summons somebody to court. Somebody is being sued. Okay, and then what happens today? The media sentence him as guilty, although in one of the major pillars of democracy is nobody is guilty till his guilt has been proven in court. Okay, here the Torah is even warning us they cannot be found guilty unless There were 7 different investigations. What does it mean 7 different investigations? Which means the person is not guilty till all the possible ways of his investigation has been manifested. And what do we do right now? We have a society that executes someone just because there's a rumor, just because some newspaper with an agenda that we do not know, because we do not really know who's the owner of the newspaper and what's behind his agenda against that kind of a person. Okay? So the point is that we find today that people's lives can be really destroyed just because somebody published about them. There was no court system yet. But today, who needs a court system? You just use the social media and the person is dead. Okay? The person is already considered to be dead. This is so terrible because it's against the Torah. And the Torah is warning us, like you don't do that. And here we have something that is very important in the Torah law. The Torah law says something that is very different than we live. We think that we are modern. We think that we are really in a society that is so humane. However, we see how much injustice is being done to people who cannot afford really good lawyers. And these people are simply thrown into jails and into a life that is basically hushed. They're being taken away from society. And the Torah says something very clear. I'm reading now from chapter 17, verse 6. Al pi shnayim edim, o shlosha edim yumat hamet. Lo yumat al pi ed echad. In order to bring out death sentence, you need 2 or 3 witnesses. And that means one witness cannot bring somebody to, cannot sentence somebody for murder or something like this. One witness is not enough. You need 2 or 3. And more than that, circumstantial evidences are totally illegal according to the Torah. Totally illegal. So we have a problem in our society because we do not go by the law of the Torah. But listen carefully to, again, the way it says, Al pi shnayim edim o shlosha edim yumat hamet. The dead person will be executed by 2 or 3 witnesses. And witnesses means kosher witnesses. They were there, they saw him going to commit the crime, they warned him. According to the Torah, it's almost impossible to sentence somebody to death. While today with the social media, society is sentenced to death like right and left without any problem. People, why does it say the dead person will be dead? And another issue, what if the person really committed the crime and he will go free? So the Torah says he's dead already. He's dead already. If you do not have the evidences, it means that it's not your job to sentence him. Let God do that. Okay? Why? That is to take from us, society, from the system of law and police system, to take cruelty away. If you cannot have it 100% proven, you cannot punish the person. And especially as we say, we are looking for punishment. The Torah is saying no. That person is part of society. You need to heal him because he's still part of society. You send him to a correctional facility or a jail system, that person costs society a lot. And because he comes out even more dysfunctional, that will cost the system even more. So are we really healing society when we have more and more people that the system is so cruel to them that they become more and more dysfunctional because society does not take responsibility to heal those people? Instead of it, society is busy punishing those people. This is not the way. We have to understand it very clearly. In order to complete that understanding, we have here another law in this parasha, chapter 17, verse 14. As you come to the land, כי תבוא אל הארץ, שאדוני אלוהיך נותן לך וירשתה. Okay? And you realize that you need a king. Som tasim alecha melech. Okay, so get yourself a king. God will choose a king for you. And then there are the rules, and there are some rules. Verse 17, רק לא ירבה לו סוסים, that king should not have too many horses. Okay? ולא ירבה לו נשים, the king should not have too many women, too many wives, not too much money, because that will not be the right king. והיה כשבתו על כיסא ממלכתו, verse 18, and when he sits on his throne, וכתב לו את משנה התורה הזאת על ספר מפני הכהנים והלוויים. And he should write, in order that his reign will be strong, okay, he should write the Torah by himself. Rashi says 2 copies. One in his library, another one he should carry with him wherever he goes. Why? Because a king comes, the Torah, and tells us he's a public servant. He has to understand that he answers to a higher authority because he's not above the law. This is where constitutional monarchy has been created, first time in history, not by the Magna Carta in England in the year 1215, but here 33 centuries ago on Mount Sinai. Constitutional monarchy, what does it mean? That there is a constitution that is higher than the kings, the judges, the policemen. Everybody has to go by that higher authority. So that is something that we have to remember, because a very important part of our general happiness and satisfaction, according to the happiness index of the UN, is, do we feel supported by our society? And part of it is the corruption index of that country, which means the experts of the UN that decided how to build the happiness index, they realize that a very important component of a human being's happiness is the corruption index, which means exactly what we spoke about. And here we understand something like this. If we don't have an educational system that educates every human being in society that there is a higher authority, you raise people that finally the power will corrupt them, and then the corruption of that society will go so high that people don't trust society, and then it will become a dysfunctional society. And you see that the more power people in that aspect of government feel they can take to themselves, because there's nobody, no transparency, nobody is there to say, hey, what are you doing? Power corrupts, and this is the biggest danger right now to democracy all over the world, because the moment you take God out of the equation, who is going to monitor the judges? Who is going to monitor the policemen? And people feel that so deeply inside, but the point is very simple. If you don't raise people to understand that, how can we create a society that is just getting better and better with the time? We finished the parasha with an amazing story. It's a law that is very, very, very different that we know in modern society. And that's chapter 21 from the beginning. Deuteronomy chapter 21. כי יימצא חלל באדמה, אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך. If you find a dead body in the field, לא נודע מי היכהו, no one knows who hit him and killed him. ויצאו זקניך ושופטיך ומדדו אל הערים של סביבות החלל. Then the cities around that dead body, when it was found, they have the judges of that city, they have to measure themselves. You cannot send somebody as a messenger. They have to go by themselves and measure the distance between the corpse and the next city. Okay? After they measure and they find what city is closer to that corpse, the judges of that city should take a female calf, okay, take it to a flowing river, and over there they should chop off the head of that female calf. Very weird. And then they say, and then make they pronounce, and then make a statement. And they say, and I'm reading now in verse 7, וענו ואמרו ידינו לא שפכו את הדם הזה. Our hands did not spill this blood. Okay? Atone to your nation Israel, so this blood would be atoned. And you, verse 9, and you, God, you will remove the clean blood from amongst you, because you will do the right thing. So, what is that, the meaning of such a weird custom? Okay? So after that, we have very little time to explain the deeper meanings, and I explain first of all. Shoftim v'shotrim. As I said, when we are coming to prepare ourselves for Rosh Hashanah, for the new year, we have to understand that when we come in front of heavenly court, and that's going to be in a month from today, in the new year, the new moon of the month of Libra, in the Hebrew calendar, you're standing in front of heavenly court, and then your soul is going to be judged. So you have to heal what hasn't been healed, and that is the key story of our success in the coming year. So in the spiritual layer, when it says Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha b'chol sharecha, and judges and policemen you should have in all your gates, so there are two layers, three layers. One layer is we just explained in the physical sense of a functional society. But in a deeper layer, we have also what Rabbi Chaim Vital is saying. We have in our gates, what are our gates? Our eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth, okay? And you should have policemen in your gates, because not everything is welcomed, which means they say in the computer industry, garbage in, garbage out, which means whatever you feed the computer, that is what the computer can give you. If you feed the right data, then you're going to get something that is productive from the computer. But if you give the wrong data to the computer, you're not going to get a valuable information that is going to be valuable for you. So, if you really want, says Rabbi Chaim Vital, if you really want your mind, your brain, to be functional properly, you have to make judges to your eyes and to your ears. You cannot watch everything, you cannot listen to everything. What does it mean? You know, in ancient days, one of the ways for people to entertain is to go to the city center, to the city square, and to watch executions. And Rabbi Zakloria is saying that executions, watching killing, is so unhealthy to your soul, to your subconscious, that you're not supposed to participate in anything of these likes. And that means that you should not go and watch executions. But today you don't have to go to the city square to watch executions. Today you can just open your phone and see videos of people executing other people. Either as murder cases, either as terrorism and stuff like this. To see dead bodies, it's very easy to find on the internet. This is very corruptive for the soul. You're not supposed to see that. Okay, more than that, violence, any kind of violence. And today, you know, how many movies there are that are making so much money because people go and watch violence. Okay, if you bring in violence, don't expect that violence is going to not to erupt from within you in the wrong moments in your lives. So you're not supposed to watch violence. And the more spiritual you become, you start to feel uncomfortable watching violence. What about hearing? You know, if you listen to music that was made and played by people that are full of anger, full of negativity, you see that they are depressed. You know, today there's so much gossip on the internet. You know that these people are depressed and they think with anger and with hatred. Why would you bring that into your soul? Why would you want to bring it inside? On the other hand, if you're really, really monitoring what comes in by your hearing, that are going to be words of wisdom, that it's going to be stuff that is based on beauty and on spirituality, words of Torah, if you're going to make sure that that's coming in, you will see that it's the best investment you can ever make. And what will come out will be, as the time passes by, the greater the investment, the greater the profits that you're going to see. What about speech? If you watch your mouth, not to curse, never, ever, not to curse, not to say the wrong words. It's not easy for many people because that's the way they were raised. That's the way they see, that's what they see around them. You know, sometimes I'm in shock. I'm meeting business people and they just don't stop cursing. Every second word is like horrible words. You can't speak like this, and you have to, that's gates on your mouth. And the more you watch your gates, the higher is the level of the energy you can build inside yourself. So that's a higher quality of life that you're getting because you raise the frequency of your thoughts, your feelings, and basically your soul. Okay, so when you come to Rosh Hashanah, what is being judged over there? So we know that in Rosh Hashanah we have the blowing of the shofar. And the Zohar is teaching us in many places, Parashat Emor, Parashat Vayikra, that in the shofar there are majorly three sounds. There is the Tetkiyah, the beginning sound, okay? There is the Shvarim Truah, the broken sound, and there's another Tetkiyah. And they refer exactly to what? To the three column systems that we have to basically restructure, heal. This is called Mishpath. Doing Mishpath is all the times along the previous year and even the years before that we were not the judges, the Shoftim. We did not know how to balance. Instead of giving too much, giving a little bit less with the measurements that makes it healthy giving, and also with the balance that the giving is also receiving. That's called healthy relationships. That's called healthy state of mind. Healthy state of mind is the guarantee, the only guarantee for the flow of the energy of the Creator, which will be manifested as what they call it, sustenance, children, and life. This energy depends on Shoftim. Now, so the Shoftim system is not just externally of a society, it has to start from within. Every individual of society must develop that system of awareness that here I'm too much judgmental, here I'm too much of a giving till I suffocate the recipient. How do I balance the two? That's called Shoftim v'Shotrim, the inner aspect. If I do not do that, what happens? Okay, then comes the end of the parasha. What was the story of the end of the parasha? It's about chopping the head of the calf. And the Zohar is saying this is a symbol of what we need to do in order to heal ourselves. And let me explain that. Every human being has two aspects of his personality. We have the real self, which means the soul self, that aspect of our personality that always is on the right frequency, always is trying to get to a balanced relationships, financially, socially, family-wise, everything. That is the soul. The soul is balanced by birth. It was created in a balanced state. However, for us to have the ability to earn our light, we need to have the false pretending self. And that's what is called the evil inclination. And the evil inclination always is trying to use the left column, the judgment, towards others and towards ourselves. What does mean judgment? Either we take the blame and we feel guilty, which is not really productive, because when you feel guilty, you're not correcting anything. Okay? You think you're punishing yourself, but you're not really correcting yourself. That's the same thing as a correctional facility. You punish somebody and you make him even more sick and imbalanced mentally, spiritually, and so on. But judgment means also to take. And when we take selfishly, just developing the left column only, which means desire to receive for the self alone, when we do that, says the Mishnah, there's a verse from Jeremiah 17:18. "U'reshaim mishne shibaron shovram." The wicked, they suffer twice the hurt. Why? So Rabbi Ashlag explains to us, when somebody is selfish, he's having only the left column developed all the time. And what does it mean? He suffers twice. Once, when he tries to achieve relationships, love, business, anything, life, happiness, well-being, because it is all selfish, it will always be judgmental, which means it's going to be always a burden. They're going always to be out of balance. And what's the problem with that? That the Creator, which is the source of all life and all that is good, you can connect to Him only by the law of affinity. And the only way to connect to Him by the law of affinity is by the three-column system, which means, on one hand, being in a state of unconditional love and service. On the other hand, you need to make the limits, the boundaries. You have to make sure that you take, but not too much. You have to make sure that you balance everything by certain rules of discipline. And central column, this is that you do it with love. So when you do it this way, then you by the law of affinity, you tap into the network of the Creator, and then the light flows to you. So, but if you are wicked, which means you are selfish, and you're not aware of these rules, it means that whatever you do, you feel something is wrong. So what motivates you is lack, fear, hatred, all kinds of energies that are connected to the judgment that you build up in yourself. So you suffer when you achieve everything you try to achieve. And why does it say that you suffer twice? Because you never reach any completion. You never reach any satiation. So you suffer both in the journey and in the end. That's why you see the selfish people. Let's say they already achieved a status in life of power and richness. If you know them carefully, it's never satiating, it's never fulfilling. They're always in a state of neurotic unsatisfaction. Okay? So it's why? Because they did not understand and apply the three-column system. How is that connected to the chopped head calf? And the answer is that when there is a judge, okay, a shofet in court, and he comes to heal the offender, not to take a revenge from him, and he looks at him with love, and he sees where the offense came from. It came from selfishness. It came from imbalance. What does it mean, imbalance and selfishness? When you don't trust the universe, and therefore you take more than you need, then you do not follow the laws. You need to steal, to kill, whatever, because you don't trust the Creator and the laws of the universe. Otherwise, why would you do that? You think that if I do not, if I do not observe, do not kill, and do not steal, okay, those are rules for all of humanity. Why shouldn't observe it? Because I won't get what I want. I have to kill and I have to steal, otherwise I won't have what I get, which means you don't trust justice, that finally justice will be made. God is the guy who runs the business. Finally, if you really go by the three-column system, you will get what you need, okay, in a way that you'll be surprised by. That's called miracles, because you'll be always getting out of the box and finding your way to the fulfillment of your needs. You need that trust, but if you don't have to, if you don't have that trust, then you steal, you kill, whatever. You don't go by justice because you don't think there is one. So when the judge, the shofet, tries to find a way to heal the offender, he has to bring him to a place in which he learns to chop off his judgment. What does it mean? When I want something, how much do I want it? I want all of it. Okay, that's normal. What's the problem? If I take all of it for myself without sharing with anyone, okay, in the Kabbalistic teachings, it's like I'm getting all 10 Sefirot, including the head, the top 3. However, if you get all 10, including the head, it will burn your life. It will fry you. It will get you into a system that finally you'll become so empty. Empty, void, vacuum in Hebrew is halal. Halal means also a corpse. So the story that the Torah is hiding over here, when a person is reaching a place that he's like a walking corpse, he's empty. He's never satiated. Nothing can satiate him, because whatever as much money they make, it will never satisfy them. No matter how many richness they have, how many friends they have, great family, We know those kind of people that nothing is satisfactory for them. Okay? You are a corpse, a walking corpse, because you feel inside a deep, dark void. Okay? How do you fix that? You have to chop off the head. Why a calf? Because we learned, when we learned about the red cow, that the ox is the symbol in the biblical biblical language. The ox is a symbol of judgment. Okay, the female ox is a judgment of a judgment. Removing the head means that when I want to achieve something and to receive something, and I want it all by myself, just for myself, and who cares about the rest, it's like you want everything, including the head. You'll get high, but then you'll have by, which means you take all 10 sefirot just for yourself. It's like a short circuit, a flash and a crash. Okay? It will be very sweet in the beginning, but very, very bitter later on, because your soul will come to emptiness, tzimtzum, contraction, and void. If you want the light to flow, you need to create a 3-column system, and a 3-column system means if I want my life to be better, I must make other people's lives better, which means you want to make money, you have to give value to others. But if you give value to others, you're not so much concentrated on yourself. That is compared by the Zohar as chopping off the head of the cow, which means if the ox and the cow is the judgment, chopping off the head, it means removing the first 3 sefirot of the 10, which means I'm not receiving just for myself, because my attention is also divided into give service to others and give some value to others. And that moment, I don't get that much. I get only 7 out of 10, but that stays forever. That is the biggest secret. Now, so if I want to really correct myself and look backwards the previous year and to see all the moments that I felt void, all the moments that I felt the crash, that I burned myself because I was too selfish. Now Teshuvah, which means this is the month of Teshuvah, returning to connect to the grid, the network of the Creator, I need to create a 3-column system. And what does it mean, 3-column system? When I am not focusing solely and wholly, just all of it, about my own satisfaction, and I also diminish my satisfaction by making sure other people's have it too, it's like removing and chopping the head of the judgment. This is what Teshuvah means, that's what real repentance is about. I'm returning to the desire. The desire is not wrong. The desire to have it good, to enjoy life and to be successful is okay. You just have to chop his head. How do you chop his head? If you focus just about your own value, your own receiving, that will burn you down. But if you remove the head, how do you remove the head of that desire, of that ox, of that cow, of that judgment? By simply saving your life from burning, by making sure you really care for others and you know that your life is dependent on that. So you don't really think that you give them, you really think that by giving them you save your life. That's how you balance right, left, and center, and you make them become one, because you realize that when you give, you receive. And when you receive, it gives you the ability to give. So when you create these 3 as one, that's called chopping off the head of the cow, of the judgment. And how do you do it? As changing, fixing, healing our way, our outlook, looking at how do we achieve things in life. And the outermost, like the highest level, is during Rosh Hashanah, when we listen to the shofar blowing, the horn, and the shofar is basically doing the same thing, which means it's about chopping off the head. By the meditation of the blowing of the shofar, we remove the judgment from our hearts and souls, and we replace it with a three-column system. And then we get the light, not all of it, because we share some of it, but that guarantees a prosperous, successful, lingering life with success and happiness. Thank you, and have a great month.